Is the Skullcannon siege-worthy in Tides of Torment? So you may have heard I've been playing a lot of Luther Harkon of late. Skulltaker turned on him one campaign, and I manually fought a few sieges I was supposed to lose, and the Khorne forces were horribly crushed. Will the Skullcannon help in sieges? How does it perform in the field in current patch? Let's peer into the skull and find out. Recruit for 1100 gold, equivalent, and 275 upkeep, this isn't that expensive compared to top-tier units or single entities. On Ultra skill, you get 1 cannon with 4,700 health, 110 armor, 20% physical resistance on top of that, the standard 35% Khorne spell resistance. Leadership is 60. Speed 68 and char speed 90 means it gets around. Melee attack begins at only 30. But each attack is magical attack and flaming attack, so skin wolves hate it. Attack interval is a relatively slow 4.7 seconds. Splash target size large means that trolls will dilute flaming damage, which may not be a good thing for you, and max targets damage by splash, if you hit that many, is 4. Melee defense of 18 is leading with your chin. Weapon strength 325 is split base 100 and armor piercing 225, meaning that it busts through a surprising amount of armor, even though it's not a monster meant for melee. Let me spoil and say right now, this damage profile, including flaming attacks, is quite good for destroying blockades in sieges and so on. Flaming attacks deliver 50% extra damage to buildings as a general rule. But that's not the end of the story. There's a bonus versus infantry of 25, adding that to the melee attack and weapon strength. Raising weapon strength to 350 isn't dramatic, going from melee attack 30 to 55 kind of is. Charge bonus is 45, and that's kind of impressive. And mass is 1600, which isn't that heavy, but it is a fast cannon, where most cannons are not. For ranged, default ammunition is only 12. While the Skullcannon is much older, the Devotees of Slaanesh with crossbows have low ammo for a similar reason. You're not meant to turn into a sit-at-home faction. Range of 380 is impressive. Official missile strength is 418, and its magical and flaming attack again. Skin will still hate it. Each flaming skull is split base 88 and armor piercing 352 damage. There is a detonation radius of 3 meters, within which a relatively low base 6 and armor-piercing 14 damage takes place, enough to pad the damage in your favor. Considered artillery, this means normal shields are useless against it. Reload time 11 is relatively short for artillery. Total accuracy 20 is the standard all units are judged by. Calibration distance 275 means it's especially inaccurate past that, and calibration area is 8.5 meters, which is sadly pretty huge, and makes it difficult to hit the broadside of a Kadai destroyer. How it'll work against cities, we'll see. Penetration cap is medium and max targets damaged beyond the first is 3, at which point the explosion takes place if it hasn't already. Something you do not see in the stats themselves is that the hits leave a patch of fire doing damage over time, like with certain other artillery units, like the magma cannon. This increases your damage and makes it better for your side, but given that there is only a small minimum range, you probably want to fire across units or from behind at every opportunity. Thick enemy lines, and there won't even be friendly fire. And if there is, Khorne doesn't really mind. Why should you? Considered a demonic unit, this siege attacker will never run, only crumble. It causes fear, and it fires whilst moving if allowed to. This doesn't make it any less accurate, but you have less control over what's being shot. There are 2 key mechanics involving melee. The first, Gore Feast, is the Khorne equivalent of the Hunger for vampires, healing 0.1% health per second in melee until you hit the cap or the unit is destroyed. The other, Skull Feast, can proc for 5 seconds with a 20-second cooldown when in melee and replenishes ammunition, so it'll get skulls for the cannon through the direct method of reaping. In the redline skills, for Demonic Lords, Hellforged Engines at 3 pips grants armor plus 10 and charge bonus plus 12 flat. Forged in Blood helps rank 7 and up cannons with leadership plus 5, bonus versus infantry plus 8, and spell resistance another plus 15%. For Mortal Lords, Warp Fire at 3 pips should grant melee defense plus 8 and missile strength plus 12%, and Malevolent Ranger should gift rank 7 and up cannons armor plus 10, reload time reduction plus 10%, and missile resistance plus 15% for less successful cannon sniping against it. In the Khorne tech tree, Siege Rectitude adds its own bonus versus infantry plus 8 and a juicy plus 15% missile strength, the latter exclusive to the Skullcannon. Demonic Melding adds ammunition plus 10% and range plus 15% to the Skullcannons. So how do we use the Skullcannon? So, I tested with sieges. The Skullcannon consistently does 10,800 damage to a wall or a gate with 12 shots. That's not enough to create a breach with a single Skullcannon. It'll certainly speed up the process with the gate, if you aren't murdering the friendly forces beating on them, hopefully. To make a Skullcannon bash a gate instead, and by the way, I found out they seem able to alt-fire against the ground, so here you would need to use the force melee button to turn them into honorary rams. They're okay at that, but no more than okay. What this means is that for rapid breaches, you want 2 Skullcannons. That should be your minimum for bringing walls crashing down and begging for you to stop. What you saw in this footage is that if you pay the micro tax, these can be amazing hybrid cannon chariots that treat infantry like food and gobble them up. Keep them moving, spinning as they charge, and firing at targets of opportunity, and they'll reap skulls and sow chaos and carnage. I have no higher praise. If you cannot micro them, you can be in trouble. So find safe places, relatively, to forget about them, if that is possible, or have them around mainly for sieges. It's not the end of the world to use them to harass a charging enemy from the side and then retreat. You can always use them more late in the fight. Bottom line, these are mismatch units. You are much less able to dish out pain against cavalry and monsters if in melee, but on the other hand, they have stupid levels of armor and physical resistance that is decent. So if you keep them active against opponents unable to exploit that productively, they'll do okay. They'll do more than okay. It just takes other stuff in your army to really exploit those situations. Don't expect the Skullcannons to win the whole thing alone. On the other hand, frankly, I feel they're even better in charging and melee than I remember, so use with aggression and hatred. Like I said, the micro-tax can be steep, but pay it and they can do amazing things. Thus, they work really well with killy Khorne Anvil units. Take care, and have fun firing Ghost Rider's head out of a cannon. Had to say it.